Hello everybody, welcome back to Leeds TV here, and my name is Conor. If this is the first time you have made it to the channel, please hit that subscribe button with the notification bell switched on just to the side of the subscribe button. And yeah, we are Leeds TV, we do lots of Leeds United content, and we are back here in the international break with a bit of paper talk. Now, the title might mislead you a little bit. This is all paper talk. It's not fabricated. We don't know if it's true. Obviously, we have many journalists that we know in the Twitter world in particular who make rumours up just for clout. So we're going to delve into it a little bit. We're going to delve into Nketiah's situation. We're going to talk a little bit about Bamford, obviously, because let's be right, guys, it's either Nketiah or Bamford in this side. So let's get into it. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I woke up this morning and a couple of my pals messaged me and said that, you know, what's going on with Eddie? Obviously, you know, us not knowing anything about it and it being paper talk, but it seems to have got a little bit of traction this morning. It seems to be that a lot of it, you know, we've had the Mirror, we've had the Sun, obviously, Alan Nixon, and a few other journos on my Twitter feed, some decent ones, all reporting that, you know, Bristol City have been in Arsenal's ear, obviously strikerless Bristol City have been in Arsenal's ear about potentially recalling Eddie Nketiah. And as I've said, you know, it is paper talk, but it's an interesting topic of conversation, isn't it? Because I think us as Leeds fans, we've all sort of spoken about it and, you know, the worries we have with what's going forward with Nketiah, what's going forward with Bamford, how we're going to fit them both into the system, are we going to fit them both into the system, and do we need to? So, I mean, there's a lot of stats to back up how good we have been this season. And, you know, I know we all have sort of spoken about Leeds United's problems, and we all know the problems. But I thought it'd be interesting to sort of look at some statistical analysis to see us from last season and at this point in time, and if we're bettering on other statistics, not just the finishing. So, it looks like the amount of shots we've taken so far this season has improved in comparison to this time last season. The completions of passes has improved by 2%. The touches in our box and the opposition box has improved by 2%. Our crossing has improved as well. The long balls, they've decreased, so it looks like we're playing more short passes, more balls along the floor. The possession, incredibly, has increased as well from 62 to 63. And our shots against, which is an important statistic for me, because that means your defence is improving, you're keeping the ball, you manipulate and play a little bit more, has actually decreased as well. So, I mean, it looks like everything's improved, and the bottom line is as well, you know, the goal difference has improved as well to 0.72 at this moment in time from 0.45. So, it looks like Leeds are improving. From this point, you know, last season we're absolutely firing, you know, but it looks like still, you know, I mean, we're fifth, we're just sort of in and around the playoff point at the minute, and I don't mind being in this position. I don't mind. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'd rather be at this point than be far, you know, ahead at the top of the table, because with Leeds United, that's never a case. There's always going to be a fall. So I quite like the fact we're still there and about. So everyone knows we're doing well. Our expected position finish, if you're looking on statistics and all the stats combined, something that I don't like doing, but I know a lot of you like that. I know a lot of you like the statistics. I know you like the analysis. They're still predicting us finish first. They're still predicting Leeds with all the combined stats into place to finish first. You know, I've listened to a couple of podcasts as well, and they're for opposition fans, and they cannot believe how frustrating it is watching Leeds. You know, with regards to, we play such wonderful football, we keep possession, we dictate the tempo of the game, but we just can't finish. And, you know, in my previous video, we had a lot of fans coming on, and thank you for coming on the channel and showing its support, but they were turning around and saying, well, are you as good as you think you are? And I think we are, because every aspect of our play statistically is very, very good, but the conversion rate is poor. And does that make you a poor side? No. Does it make you still a very good side? Well, yeah, it does, because you're dictating every other ember of play. So, essentially, the final third is the problem, and that was the problem last season. It wasn't the problem at this point last season, but we're still in a better position statistically. And the reason I mentioned the statistics and our final third is because it all leads to one thing. Leeds play the 4-1-4-1 formation, which leads to the fact that Bielsa doesn't really accommodate working Bamford and Nketiah together. We saw it at Charlton when he sort of went to a back three and we went two up front, but you know, there was no cohesion there. They clearly had just been thrown together because we were losing at that moment in time. So it's a really interesting prospect. Now, other clubs, if what was reported was true about other clubs and the amount of clubs that were going in for Eddie Nketiah, there was 32 reported, including Leeds, and there was sort of a line of clubs who had to present to get Nketiah's service on the last day of the season. On the last day of the transfer window. That's what I find really interesting, because Leeds have clearly secured his services. Emery and the Cronkies know exactly what's going on, how Bielsa will play him, how he will fit in. There's going to be no stone unturned, if you will. So they know the process. Did they know that Nketiah would sort of be fed in slowly? I mean, if they did, then for me, there's going to be no call back in January, because they know how Leeds are going to work with it. They know how Bielsa's going to work with it. But, if Leeds have promised them something different, now that's a different scenario, because if I was Arsenal, I'd be a little bit annoyed at that, because we haven't started him. We haven't really put him in properly yet Nketiah. And, if you're a parent club, you want to see your loanee playing. And that's why we had to do the presentation, because, why can we be better than, let's say, a Bristol City in developing Nketiah as a player? And that's ultimately what it is. That's fundamentally what it is. That's what is about all the top players who've been out on loan. You look at Harry Wilson, Tammy Abraham. They go out on loan to be developed. Now, for me, when you develop a player, you have to start the player. And you guys know what I'm talking about with Nketiah. I want to see him start. And I think the reason behind why I talked about the statistics at the start is because the XG is high, and XG expected goals, but the goal conversion rate is shockingly bad. And it was the same last season. So I guess my point to that is, why would we not start him? Why would we not give him a run of games? I don't get the logic, because every blueprint in Leeds' play, analytically, statistically, visually, we can see all these things clicking. But the one fault is up front. So why wouldn't we change that? And I'm not slighting on Patrick Bamford. Really like Bamford. If it was up to me, I'd play two up front. But Bielsa doesn't do that. So you've got to fit one in or the other. So then you're bringing up a debate. What are the attributes of Nketiah? What are the attributes of Bamford? But you can't compare the two, because you can't fully compare 90 minutes for either player. So if you give Nketiah a go, you've got to give him a go for 2 or 3 games, and you've got to see how he does. I compare Eddie to Tammy Abraham. Abraham was a little bit younger when, he featured in the Championship, but he didn't have, I think, statistics-wise, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think Eddie's had more sort of first-team appearances in the League Cup and just coming off the bench for 5 minutes than Tammy did at his age. Obviously, Tammy making his sort of claim at Chelsea right now, but he didn't really when he was younger. He was sent out on loan. So there are pros and cons with the Tammy and Eddie debate, but I do like to compare both of them, because obviously, physically they're not the same, 6'3", 5'9", but attribute-wise, strong, quick, in and out of the channels, incredible balance, great link-up play, can pick the ball up deep. I really like Eddie, and I really like Tammy Abraham, and I think we've been crying out for an Eddie for years. That fox in the box, that dangerous player who's essentially a bagsman. Urban Dictionary for you guys, a bagsman is someone who just scores goals wherever they are. You see him scoring for England as well, still when he's on the bench for Leeds. So it's one of those, it's a very interesting debate, and it's going to become a more heated debate the more traction it gets. So, are Bristol City in Arsenal's here? If I was Bristol City, I would be 100%, because they're strikerless, obviously with Benikofobi. And if they see Nketiah, a class striker who's still scoring for England, who when he comes on for Leeds does make an impact, you're surely staking a claim, and you're surely in Arsenal's ear. So I know the sources aren't that, we might say, a few of you might say, well, they're not credible, they're not the best sources, but I don't think there's smoke without fire, and it is paper talk, but logistically, I think it's been in the back of all of our heads, hasn't it? Eddie being recalled in January. We've not said it, but if you've had discussions in little closed corners with your friends, you've had that discussion that, if you were the parent club, you'd want Eddie to be playing. And if you were a surrounding club around Leeds and you've seen him score for England, still in competitions, and you've seen him come off the bench for Leeds and scoring, you'd ask the question, wouldn't you? Of course you're going to ask the question, is there a chance he could be recalled? Could we be playing him? And we all know with Jack Clark that Jack Clark's not going to be recalled for me in January. Ben White, touch wood, he's not. I mean, his loan spell's going very, very well. I can't imagine why Brighton would want to cut that down. But it is interesting. It's a very interesting debate, and is it something that Arsenal would have a problem with? Because unless we've put it out in the blueprint that we are going to be putting Nketiah in sort of slowly and steadily, and we're going to be making a lot of sub appearances. He might not start every game, but that phraseology is interesting. He might not start every game. I mean, but is he going to start a game? Are we going to be able to compare Bamford? Are we going to be able to compare Eddie? What if Eddie started a game and he scored a hat-trick? Our big problem is we've under Bielsa we've blown a team away by the scoreline once, and that was West Brom at home, where we blew them away, which incidentally was where Bamford was incredible. I don't want to compare the both. I don't want to compare the two, but you have to, because formation-wise, you might get other managers in the league who would accommodate both. Bielsa will not do that. So you have to choose one or the other to start. And that's why you get a lot of fans talking about Harrison or Costa. That's why you get a lot of fans talking about Bamford or Nketiah, because the system will not vary. We will not change the system to accommodate a player. The system remains in place. The player has to work into that system. And I feel Eddie's done that. And a lot of people turn around and say, well, when he came on for 10 minutes, he didn't do X, Y, and Z against Charlton, etc., etc. Derby didn't do anything when he came on. But, you've got to give a kid a chance, and a kid with that quality. For me, if the roles were reversed, I've had this conversation with one of my mates, if the roles were reversed with Bamford, would he be doing what Eddie's doing off the bench? A lot of people, I heard, as what I saw on Twitter as well, Eddie's not doing X, Y, and Z off the bench. I mean, he's scoring goals. I mean, his ratio is ridiculous for what, when he's been coming off the bench and scoring. Would Bamford be doing the same if he was coming off the bench? But then you could turn around and say, well, that means Eddie's an impact sub. But I genuinely do not think Arsenal believe and see him as an impact sub. Do Arsenal want him to be playing week in, week out for a Championship side, which in my opinion he could be doing? Does he start week in, week out for Bristol City, for example? Of course he does. Do you know what I mean? So that is the debate. And it's a very interesting debate. And in my personal opinion, we're going to be hearing a lot more of this debate. A hell of a lot more of it. I think it's going to really build some traction before January, because I've definitely thought about it, because I've had this other conversation as well. I mean, is he going to start at all unless Bamford gets a suspension or injury? I don't think he does. I do not think he starts a game until Bamford gets injured or cannot play for whatever reason. And then you can't say it wouldn't surprise you if Harrison played in the 9 or something, and then it's just Bielsa's ways, his mad ways, which are controversial, but and sometimes can be frustrating, but they do work, I guess. So I mean, they've made us a much better team. So that's the debate to have, and it's a very interesting one. But I think the key points to take out of it is the fact that we all know the final third is a problem. Everything else is perfect. I've just read out the stats there. I've read out 8 separate stats there, which prove at this point, last season, we weren't as good as we are now, statistically. But the bit where we fall down massively once again is in the final third. And you can't pin everything on Bamford. You can't. But guess what, guys? He's a striker. That's what he gets paid to do. That's what he probably gets paid about 30 grand a week to do. Put the ball in the back of the net. And unfortunately, like I've said multiple times, we have to have the conversation, Bamford or Nketiah, because the system doesn't change, and we all know that. So you have to have that conversation. And it's going to be very, very interesting these next couple of months on how Leeds approach this, how we go about it. Is Nketiah going to start games at all? I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think he's going to start a game until, or do you think it's literally just going to be Bamford, Bamford, Bamford? And, I guess my, debate with it would be as well, if you're putting the performances in coming off the bench and the leading striker isn't scoring, why is there not a like-for-like change? And a lot of people say, well, Bamford does more physically and all this sort of stuff. But okay, but that's fine. But, let's say, for argument's sake, Ian Wright. Ian Wright was 5'9", 5'10". And he, there was times where he played a lone striker role. And if there was a lone striker role, and a lot of people didn't think Eddie could cope with that, then Bielsa in previous regime has played inverted wingers, where the wingers get close to the striker, the 3-3-1-3 formation. So it's going to be a very interesting one. So keep tabs on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And now we're going to move on to a little bit more paper talk, which I saw earlier on this week, and I did actually retweet this one, and it was about our our absolute magician, reported by the Football Insider, a very, very good source. It was actually one of the ones that leaked Ben White coming to Leeds. But it reads this: Liverpool are keeping tabs on defender Ben White following his starring role at Leeds United this season, Football Insider has learned. The Premier League leaders are assessing potential centre-back options next year beyond amid doubts of the future of Dejan Lovren. And apparently, Liverpool sources told Football Insider that their scouts on the trail of White and have been blown away by his development under Marcelo Bielsa. So I don't know, with that one, if we are sort of looking at keeping Ben White after this year, I would be stunned, and that is just on the premise of I think he's going to be an England centre-back one day, and I just think he's that good. He's the best defender I've seen since Woodgate and Ferdinand, so there are going to be a lot of clubs after him, and that is why Brighton was smart enough to offer the kid a contract. I mean, they probably know that the bigger clubs are going to come in for him, but they've offered him a contract so the price goes a little bit higher, and I think he'd be a wonderful signing for Liverpool, and he'd fit their system really well as a backup centre-half, and it'd be really good to see. I mean, it'd be gutting, but unless we get up to the Premier League and we can offer that, then we can offer sort of, maybe not an alternative to Liverpool, but we just probably couldn't compete anyway, could we? But if Liverpool didn't come in, we'd be able to offer him something maybe that Brighton wouldn't. So that's another thing. That's another. I mean, I don't really want to go too much into that, but that was from the Mail and the Football Insider. So Football Insider is a decent. It's a very good source. So yeah, I mean they're the two stories really, guys. I mean, keep Ben White around, start Nketiah, and we'll start scoring more, and we'll get promoted. There you go. That's my 2 cents. But no, if it was that simple, but. Yeah, on the whole, guys, I'm very happy with where we are. I've been disappointed with some performances, as you've seen on my previous videos, but at the end of the day, I'm happy with where we are. This is all paper talk with regards to Nketiah, Ben White. I do believe there's no smoke without fire, though, and that's a very general sort of thing to say, but I do believe that. So the Eddie thing does make sense to me, and it would make sense to me for Arsenal to question that, for Bristol City to put sort of an acquisition in about that, or a suggestion. Leeds aren't playing him, could we take him? We'll start him every single week. And there is a question there statistically why everything in this little clock that we have is perfect apart from the conversion rate, and you've got someone on the bench who bags for Arsenal, bags for England, and has bagged for Leeds. So unfortunately, we have to have the debate whether or not it is Bamford or Nketiah. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I hope you've enjoyed this video, a little bit different. Make sure you slap a like on the video. I'll see you in a bit.